You talk about different types of iconoclasm. There's obviously a type that you haven't got a lot of time for. You call it Baconian iconoclasm. And there's another subtler sort you obviously do want to promote, and that's Wittgensteinian iconoclasm. Can you, for simpletons like me, can you help me understand the distinction?
Yes. So Baconian iconoclasm is an iconoclasm of a kind of critique, where Francis Bacon is interested in sort of dethroning the idols of our mind. And we do this by real science sort of coming in and showing you where superstition has misled you.
Right.
So you see this like in more recently in work like, Nietzsche or Foucault or Marx or Freud, where the movement of the thought is something like, you thought that this was about virtue, but actually it's about power.
And presumably in certain amounts of scientific reductionism, it's the same, is it?
Exactly.
You thought you had a mind or a will. In fact, it's just brainwaves or fire.
Exactly. You thought you were falling in love, but it was actually just
exactly. Yeah.
And then there's a Wittgensteinian iconoclasm that functions not in terms of these displacement narratives, but in a more additive way. So Wittgenstein worries that a picture is held as captive, but instead of then, well, you rip open that picture to see what's under it, he adds to that picture as in an album of sketches. So he begins the philosophical investigations this way, where he's worried about the way that a certain picture of language acquisition has held him captive. But instead of saying, no, that's not how language works, he says, maybe, but look at all these other ways that language has also can also work for us. And so it's an expansive way that you sort of mitigate the power of this picture by surrounding it with all of these other pictures of how something can work. So it's not that I think that Baconian iconoclasm has no place. I think that it does have an important place. Yeah. And when we look at like the kinds of material iconoclasms we're dealing with now, I think it actually makes a lot of sense as a way of dealing with the Confederate statues. These were statues that are literally hollow, like they went up very quickly. They don't have a lot of meaning except in order to enforce and police a kind of white supremacy during the Jim Crow South. And so, I mean, I think their physical hollowness kind of points to their ideological hollowness. It's really just this one. It's not like most images have this sort of plurality of meaning. These images are hollow with meaning. So in this wave of iconoclasm, it makes sense. I do think it's interesting the ways that, as I mentioned before, the way that people create selfies and stuff with this, because they need an image. What's important is the image of the statue coming down and the revelation of its hollowness, the way that it twists and crumbles as it falls, and the way that you can sort of pose with this vanquished statue. So what replaces them is not nothing. It's these kinds of images of destruction.